Welcome back. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune working on a new two-track plan to end the record-long partial shutdown at the Department of Homeland Security. It would affect all of DHS except parts of ICE and Customs and Border Protection. The funding would be handled through reconciliation later, bypassing the Senate filibuster. The president endorsing the plan, writing on Truth Social, "I am asking that the bill be on my desk no later than June 1st. So we know now that reconciliation is happening. Joining me now is California Congressman Darrell Issa. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back. Do you think that's doable? Can you all get a reconciliation plan on the president's desk by June 1?
You know, there's never been any doubt that we could do reconciliation. But after the big, beautiful bill, one of the real questions was, what would we put in it? What would be the priorities? We now have an urgent priority that we can cobble together. The offsetting, I repeat, the offsetting dollars that go with anything we fund in reconciliation, because as you know, it has to be neutral.
Right. It has to be neutral, and there are certain things that I know that the president would like in there that don't right away or ordinarily look to be budgetary, but people, your colleagues, have made an argument that they could be, like, for example, the SAVE Act. If you have to allocate money to the states to secure elections, would that become a budgetary item?
Absolutely. You know, we have a policy of honest and free elections, ones that don't have fraud. Now, that's an existing policy. We're not creating policy. We have 36 states that already have voter ID. We have the Real ID Act, which requires, as you know, every time you fly, you to have a certified piece of identification to get on an airplane. So all of the policies are there, but we would have to find the dollars. And obviously, ICE deals with immigration and customs, so we would likely look to offsets in that area. And as you know, the president's desire to bring in good people while getting rid of bad people could create a not a policy change, but an improvement in the way we actually do things over the last administration that brought in 10 million people plus haphazardly. Well, actually deprioritizing the best and the brightest, the graduates with STEMs, all the other people that we need for this absolutely rocketing economy that we expect to lead.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make. And, you know, it brings up birthright citizenship as well, because I don't know that people truly understand what's going on with birthright citizenship. And, you know, Peter Schweitzer made a really important point to me recently about this, that the Chinese are really exploiting this. They come here, they have babies, and they get the passport, they go back to China, and that child is raised in China. And then when they're ready, they can come back here, vote, they can do whatever they want, they can work in the military. I mean, after all, they're American citizens. Do you think people fully understand how birthright citizenship is being exploited?
No, most people don't understand that even our founding fathers, they found certain things. They said an invading army wouldn't enjoy birthright. Clearly, at the time of the debate, they excluded diplomats. So they understood that foreigners, people whose allegiance is to the foreign power, people who didn't come here legally, were all to be excluded. We just simply haven't done it statutorily. And what we're really doing is doing in statute what was clearly debated at the time of the amendments that created the perception that birthright was for everyone, when in fact that wasn't what the authors said at the time they were marking it up.
Yeah. Meanwhile, here's Peter Schweitzer with me recently on this very issue. Watch this.
China has a very sophisticated program of exploiting birthright citizenship, and the Supreme Court's going to be hearing this case. Our federal government has no idea how many children are being minted as U.S. citizens using this technique, but China has looked into it. China has encouraged this. They've pushed it. The Chinese government believes that every year for the past 13 years, Maria, roughly 100,000 Chinese babies have been born in the United States that are then taken back to China, raised in China. When they turn 18, They're going to be U.S. citizens. They can vote in elections, donate to political campaigns, get government jobs. That's more than 1 million voters. Remember that 2016 election was settled by 80,000 votes. So it's a massive exploitation of our immigration laws. Other entities like the Muslim Brotherhood and the Mexican government are doing the same sort of thing.
Meanwhile, President Trump, of course, addressing the nation last night. He did not raise this, but he gave us an update on Operation Epic Fury. Let's take a watch.
I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. We are in this military operation so powerful, so brilliant against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future.
Your reaction, Congressman?
Well, last night, 2 things happened. You heard from the first president since Richard Nixon, who said about ending wars and did not want to have protracted wars, but would use large amounts of force to bring them to a close. And by the way, we launched a mission to the moon, the first one since Richard Nixon in 1972. So I do believe that President Trump is showing the kind of leadership that we've been without for a long time. And obviously his discussion about the Europeans stepping up because they're the ones that use it. Well, in fact, if we were to decide, we could pick almost any price for our oil if we simply said it wasn't going to be exported, because we're not short of oil in the U.S., and the president's well aware of that. What we are short of is the support for this war from the Europeans and the Asian countries who depend on that oil. We don't.
And, you're right. And I thought that was so compelling that he made that point, that the U.S. is producing more oil than Saudi and Russia combined. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson is fighting back. We just showed the quote. Iran claims that we will not tolerate this vicious cycle of war, negotiations, ceasefire, and then repeating the same pattern as an unjust war that has been imposed on the Iranian people. And no mention, of course, of the fact that they've been saying death to America and death to Israel for 47 years. But the other leadership that President Trump has shown throughout this agenda is ensuring that America is first in so many issues, including getting back to the moon. And I want to get your take on the Artemis launch yesterday. It was just remarkable with the crew of the Artemis 2 now on their way after yesterday's launch. It marks America's first moon mission in over 50 years. The crew begins their 10-day mission to test systems in deep space, potentially paving the way for future moon landings. In fact, Jared Isaacman, the head of NASA, told me that the plan is for an Artemis 3 and then an Artemis 4 in 2028, where we will have our astronauts walking the moon again before China. You're a member of the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Give us your sense.
Well, I was there when Jared made that speech last night here in Florida at the Cape, and he laid out the president's vision for a 1-2-3 punch, where we will be in a new, improved, completely different rover environment. But the most important thing that was said by him, that the vision of this administration is, in fact, we're not going to the moon to see it and leave as we did 54 years ago. We're going there to go, to stay, and to use it as a base for that leapfrog to Mars, for that ability to do things that we envisioned in the days of slide rules, but we're doing now in the days of quantum computing.
Yeah, and there's so many ideas for moon business and activity. Do you believe the U.S. can beat China there?
We will beat China there. We have SpaceX, we have Blue Origin, we have these private companies who have shown NASA the way. And now under Jared's leadership, NASA is pooling those entrepreneurial companies, those people who show us they can launch for a fraction of what we did, and they don't need Russian boosters to get there. That's what's changed. And thank goodness we're now recognizing it. And we're leading by following, leading in the space race by following the entrepreneurial and private enterprises that really modernized our cost and benefit of getting to space.
That's a great point. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much. Darrell Issa joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.